Eat, sleep, bet, repeat. That's how we get down on the opening line at EliteSportsBetting.com. I'll be your host, Benny Ricciardi, and I got my man Moose here with me, Moose underscore eSports over on Twitter right now. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, happy 420. I see you've celebrated well.
Yeah,
Nice and green.
it's technically 421 today, but it was a rough night. I'm not gonna lie to you. So we'll keep the glasses on. We'll keep the glasses on for now. And as you know, I was not feeling very well last week, little under the weather. So for those of you who are wondering where I was, that's where I was. I was in my bed on my couch and in my bed and pretty much in the bathroom throwing up and doing all that good stuff. So it was fun.
So how was Corona?
Yeah, coronavirus was not fun. For those of you who didn't know, I did have it. That's why I haven't been around for about the last week and a half or so.
Oh, you actually did have it. I didn't know that.
It came back positive. Just quick update. I mean, basically my throat kind of closed up to the point where like I could barely swallow. I had a ton of just mucus and grossness in my
Jesus.
throat. So I basically had, how like in the old Western movies, they got spittoons there because they're all chewing tobacco. That was
Uh-huh.
basically me minus the chewing tobacco. I was just sitting there like just spitting out
Just spitting out, yeah.
just mucus and just like thick, gross mucus. But anyway, we're here to talk about esports. So enough about the coronavirus shit.
Oh,
Um,
God.
so Moose, I actually had a question for you to start off with here today.
Sure.
We have two slates for Wednesday. There's like a 2-game slate that's starting at like 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning, whatever the usual time is from Asia. And then
Mhm.
there's a European slate that's starting at noon tomorrow. The Asian slate is a 2-gamer. The European slate is a 6-gamer. We haven't really talked about this, but how does your approach to building teams change when you go from a 2-game slate to a 6-game slate?
That's a great question.
I know that's what I asked it.
It's a fantastic question. So, when you're building a 2-game slate, you really want to build lineups that will not be chalk. You really want to build lineups that people aren't going to build. That means you're building like 3-4 stacks. You're building lineups that people are going to have absolutely no clue how to work around. And that's kind of where I would start, is focus on those lineups where 10,000 people don't match you.
Right.
And then from there, kind of, make your mark, I guess you could say, and figure out what you want to do.
Let's talk a little bit about that 2-game slate then. For example, right? You have a really good. You may have a different opinion on this than I do, but I mean, like T1 and Dragon X are two pretty good teams, right?
Yeah, they're identical record.
And then in the other side of it, you have E-Star taking on Wii, and E-Star should win that one pretty easily.
I don't know about that one.
No, you don't? Okay, all right. So maybe this is part of it there. So I mean, I'm thinking though, like if you're saying, you got to build the lineups that other people aren't making, I think Dragon X is a slight underdog, right? So to me, the lineup that most people are going to be trying to build is going to be like an E-Star Dragon X lineup, right?
No, I think they'll just shove E-Star T1.
E-Star T1?
Yeah.
All right. So then you think using guys on like Wii or Dragon X would be the way to kind of, for what you're saying with the 2-game slate, to kind of build a lineup that other people aren't building?
Yeah, I mean, a best of 5 in China gives you a lot of room for big kill games, and you're gonna see a lot. Like, I think probably something weird's gonna win tonight, but I would say that you would want to start off with building stacks that are, something people won't really think of to really separate yourself. But at the same time, you kind of want to build stacks that account for the fact that you could have some overlap in terms of like one player being better on one team as opposed to another team in a 2-game slate. There's a lot more to think about. It gets way more technical than like a 6-game slate where you just shove whatever you think is going to win, and you have a lot of options. But I think tonight the key way to generate yourself to distinguish your lineups is something that I'm doing is, obviously you can put jungle a captain, and that'll immediately differentiate you. And then you could also create stacks where your captain is not the majority of your lineup. So let's say, for example, you use a T1 captain.
Right.
then you only played 3 players or 2 players from T1,
Mhm.
and then you use the rest of the players from a different lineup, and that would really help you differentiate. So that's kind of what I would do in that sense. And actually, T1 is minus 250 and minus 235 now. So they're actually gone down. So money's coming out on Dragon X, and then eStar is actually minus 240. So it's all pretty close. Like nobody really knows who's gonna win. The thing is though, like I'm really curious about best of 5 in China with 2 teams like eStar and WE. This is, I mean, we're talking to like this is like Chiefs Rams. Like you're talking about 2 teams that when they win hard. So
Mhm.
I could see it being, if WE do have a chance, if they do come in and win a game or 2, then they're gonna win them with 20, 30 kills.
Right.
That could really set you up to do well if you play those kind of players.
Now, in like other daily fantasy sports, game stacking is something we do. Like the example you gave, like Chiefs Rams, you game stack that game and you get 45, 50 points on both sides. You could come away with a GPP winning lineup without using anybody other than from that game. Would you ever consider? I know you usually say to me, try to get the winning teams and pick out guys on those winning teams, but you know, at least for a tournament, does it make sense to kind of say, well, let's hope one of these 2 games goes to 5, and the games that both teams win are big kill games. Like, could you win by, game stacking E Star and WE in the same lineup pretty much?
Definitely.
All right, so that is something that we can
Definitely.
consider. Like I said, that's not normally something that we do, not normally something that we go, but on a 2-game slate, that's something you consider. Would you ever consider doing that, like for the slate on Wednesday afternoon, the 6-game slate, though? Would you ever consider doing that for a 6-gamer?
No, there's
Okay.
too many factors and too many. With the 6-game slate, I think they're all best of ones, and
Mm-hmm.
you're just gonna have the teams the stack that's gonna win that tournament is just gonna be a combination of 2 teams.
Yeah, the 2 highest scoring teams.
Yeah, and there's gonna be like, we're not talking about this is the EU Masters. These teams are like very low level tier 2 teams that are trying to enter the tier 1 circuit,
Right.
and so they're not playing with the best macro and mindset. They're just trying to get kills, and so you're gonna see games that end with like 30 kills basically, and that would be how I would focus on that slate. The 6-game slate is definitely an interesting slate. I had wished that they didn't put in a $15 contest about a $10 contest, which would entice me a lot more to enter it. But the gist of it is that a 6-game slate is has been really generous with cash for me, at least,
Right.
because I have so many options. And the reason why, when I've been looking, I've actually had a moment. I had like a 40-hour break before more League of Legends hit me now, but I took a look at my past lineups and I saw what was I doing differently compared to other players and big time DFS players.
Right.
And what I was doing was I was on larger slates, like 5-game, 6-game slates. I was able to not only fit all the teams that I wanted, I was able to also fit carries in the correct positions as opposed to just stacking one side. And that gave me an edge all the time versus people that just said, okay, I would think this team is going to destroy, so I'm going to put as many players as I can from that team in.
Right.
And that strategy works much better on smaller 3-game slates. So when I was looking at it, I've consistently been doing really crappy on 3-game slates. But as the number of games goes up on a slate, the better I get. So it's a weird.
Now is it
analogy?
You're talking for cash here?
Yeah, for cash.
Yeah. Now tournaments though, it's almost the opposite, where the smaller slates you want to be stacking as many guys as you can, right? Like on the slate at 4:00 in the morning tonight or 3:00 in the morning tonight, that's one where you probably want to be stacking, as opposed to the noontime tomorrow one with the 6 games. It might be one to kind of lean a little more to the cash and just try to grind out a little bit of a profit that way.
Yeah, that's kind of how I would look at it. I'm probably gonna watch. I'm probably not gonna play that first day, just to kind of get a feel for the teams. When they were doing the EU Masters last week, it was going on with 4 other tier 1 tournaments, so I could not really focus on that one. But if it gives us a chance to take a look, then we'll take a look. this EU Masters thing that's happening now, it's going to be happening in every region. North America has one, China has one, Korea has one. So all the people on Twitter that are bitching that we're going into playoffs and then finals and that'll be it. Yeah, LCS comes back in May, so we're not going to get a break. This is like a full year thing at this point.
Now explain this tournament to me, because I think this is a pretty cool idea. It's kind of almost like the soccer relegation in Europe, right? The way they do
exactly. Yeah, pretty much.
It's a little bit.
So I think Europe was the one that actually came up with this, but basically it used to be back in the day. It used to be that it was teams would just kind of buy their way in into team slots into these championship series where they get to market themselves and their team.
Right.
So what they did was they created what is essentially called a relegation bracket, where the bottom 2 teams or the bottom 3 teams or whatever, depending on the region you have, will enter relegation, and that'll put them in a tournament that'll decide whether or not they'll participate in the next year's championship series, or if a new team will be able to rise up and claim a spot. And these new teams are coming from lower bracket areas or teams that have been assembled to kind of challenge. They're called challenger series teams. And oftentimes they do make it. But we've had times where there's Moose is coming into play. He's going to be coming in. So we've had times where, usually the teams that are out to be relegated are winning most of the time, and they come back in, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do get upset. Usually it's think of it as like people that say something like, oh, the Dolphins should play Alabama or something like that. Something like that. Something just like silly. That's kind of, or whatever, the Bobcats, or at the time was the Bobcats or the Hornets or whatever. It was the Charlotte Bobcats went like 6-66, and people wanted them to play Kentucky or whatever. It's the same thing essentially. It's like these teams are like,
well, let me ask you though, like
level.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. Is like when people make those asinine comments about like college football, like, oh, Alabama should play the Miami Dolphins. Like the Miami Dolphins would beat the living piss out of Alabama. But you said sometimes these challenger teams do actually wind up beating some of the championship level teams, right?
Yeah, the gap is a little bit closer. Yeah, it's a little bit closer of a gap because the players are so young that the variance in esports is high enough where very talented people can come in, and think of it as like more so like the Dolphins playing Alabama, but the Dolphins can only use the players that they acquired in the last 2 years or a year.
Okay.
So it's more like that. It's more like rookies versus sophomores.
Right. So it's like the NBA. It's like the NBA rookies and sophomores game right there a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you can have most likely the sophomores are going to win, but every once in a while the rookie class is strong and can get up there.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's kind of like that where like you have like your third string teams, and then you have your tier 3. Like I would say that these teams that are coming in are like tier 3, upper tier 3 teams, lower tier 2 teams, and then depending on how you tier the championship teams, you would have a tier 1, tier 2, maybe tier 3 or something, and then you'd be able to kind of tell where they stand. But this is going to happen for all of the regions. So, and then LCS comes back again in May, and then after this happens for all the regions, LPL will be back, LCK will be back, Europe will be back, and we're going to do it all over again. Like this thing is never going to stop. Like I don't even know why I have a job.
It's just, all right, so there you guys go. I mean, if you're worried about esports slowing down here, it doesn't look like it's going to be slowing down. And worst case scenario, Moose, if we lose a little LOL for a week or two here, we still have Counter-Strike we can talk about as well.
And Call of Duty is on Friday, and I'm playing the Call of Duty pretty hard. I looked at the rule sets and I understand it really well, so I'll be playing it pretty hard, and I'll probably write up an article about that as well in terms of teams and players that you want to focus on. So it's gonna be a rough time for Moose trying to figure everything out.
Well, listen, you guys know if you're looking for the fantasy information to play a little DFS, you can always go over to elitefantasy.com and find all of Moose's articles over there when it comes up. If you're looking for his betting information on all these different games here, you can go over to elitesportsbetting.com. That's where we have all that stuff, as well as a little bit of a write-up there. And then you could always find Moose on Twitter. Moose, let them know where they can find you on Twitter.
Moose dash underscore Moose
Moose
underscore
underscore,
esports.
isn't it? Yeah, Moose
Moose
underscore.
underscore esports. Yeah,
Yeah,
I changed it while you were sick in your
yeah, no,
honor.
I was gonna say because I actually wrote it up the way it was the old one, and it didn't pop up, and I was like, "What the hell?" When I was putting up the videos for Duke the other day when you guys did them. So yeah, definitely make sure you guys are following Moose over there. Anytime one of his bets or anything goes up, you'll see that pop up. You'll probably also see it if you follow Elite Alerts. That pops up anytime somebody changes anything in the betting package for us. Moose, anything you want to add here, or you want me to sign us off?
I want to add one thing.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned tonight's slate is a small 2-game slate,
Mhm.
and people are going to be playing pretty much all the chalk and all the upset stacks you can imagine. If a jungler outscores the competition and you play that jungler, you will win. So don't be afraid to use junglers in the captain slot, especially on favorite teams. And like you said, Benny, you gave away the secret tonight. You gave away the secret juice for the viewers. Team stacking. Game stacking 2-game slates is how you make money. Stack E star WE, take T1 in the team slot. Adios.
All right, so there you go. Game stack it up tonight. Make sure you throw a couple of those junglers up there in the captain spot because nobody else is going to be doing it. And don't forget, when you win all that money tomorrow, you can find him on Twitter at Moose underscore esports. You can buy him some cat food or buy some catnip for that cat we got there, and we'll be good. So for Moose, this is Benny signing off for another episode of The Opening Line at EliteSportsBetting.com.